Thank you so much, Steve. And what an honor to introduce our next presenter. Award-winning poet Gary Glazner will give a talk on creative aging and share from his over 20 years work as founder of the Alzheimer's Poetry Project. He gives examples of evidence-based dance, music, storytelling, and visual arts programs highlighted in his book, Dementia Art, Celebrating Creativity in Elder Care, Health Professions Press 2014. This fun, high-energy talk is packed with full of simple techniques to help create high-quality art programs. The talk builds communication skills and helps increase the ability to connect with people living with memory loss. The methods are useful with all audiences and transferable to working with other disability communities and cognitively well elders. Gary Glazner is the founder, lead artist, and executive director of the Alzheimer's Poetry Project. The Alzheimer's Poetry Project was the recipient of the 2013 Rosalind Gilbert Innovations in Alzheimer's Disease Caregiving Legacy Award and the 2012 MetLife Foundation Creativity and Aging in America Leadership Award in the category of community engagement. Gary Glazner was co-recipient of the International Leadership in Arts and Health Award in 2018. Give him a warm Zoom welcome.
Thank you so much. It's a little scary to hear the bio read out like that, but I appreciate it. It's an honor to be here with everyone. And I'm going to give, just briefly talk about how I started doing this work. It was 1997 and I was got a grant to work at an adult daycare center in Northern California. So yeah, we want to keep the PowerPoint on if we can, if that's all right. Thank you, Steve. So 1997, I got this grant and they wanted me to use poetry at this adult day program, but there was no instruction on how to do it. And I didn't know very much about Alzheimer's or dementia, but I knew enough to know that I couldn't do a traditional poetry workshop. So the story that I love to share with people and was that there was a guy in the group and his head was down. He wasn't participating at all, seemingly unaware of his surroundings. And I said the Longfellow poem, I shot an arrow into the air and his eyes popped open. He said, it fell to earth, I knew not where. And suddenly he was with us. And it was just this really powerful moment for me as a person and as a poet to see how useful poetry could be with this community. So what I'm going to do today is to give you 4 really simple techniques that I use with the Alzheimer's Poetry Project. And we'll go ahead and advance that slide if you would, please. So the 4 techniques are this: call and response, discussions, using props, and creating a group poem by asking open-ended questions. So let's, yeah, there we go. You're way ahead of me. That's very good. So let's see if maybe we can do, I don't know if Juliana is still on the line or not. Juliana, are you still there?
I am here.
Would you do a little call and response with me so the group could hear what it's like?
Sure.
Okay, and Steve, we'll take off the slideshow just for a second so we can see us easier. All right, so Juliana, am I saying it right? Am I getting it right, Juliana?
You got it right.
Very good. Now, I thought we would start with what's actually called a dicho, which is a Spanish proverb or wisdom saying. Would that be all right with you if we start with that?
That's fine with me.
Okay, so I'm going to say it and then you repeat after me, and that's how we perform the poem, or in this case, it's a little wisdom saying. And we're going to do it first in Spanish and then English. You ready? All right, I love the enthusiasm. This is so great. All right, so here we go. And you'll have to excuse my Spanish is not great. I took Spanish 101 many times. So here we go. I'll say it, you say it. Pan es pan.
Pan es pan.
Queso es queso.
Queso es queso.
No hay amor,
No hay amor
sino hay un beso.
si no hay un peso.
Mua, 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 mua. Beso, beso, beso.
¡Mua, mua, mua! Beso, beso, beso.
And then if I could reach out, if we were in the same room, I would reach out and go, abrazo.
Abrazo.
And you can give yourself a hug.
I'm giving
And the
myself
people
that.
at home can give themselves a hug too. And now we'll do it in English. So here we go. Bread is bread.
Bread is bread.
Cheese is cheese.
Cheese is cheese.
Without a kiss.
Without a kiss.
Mwah, mwah, mwah.
Mwah, mwah, mwah.
Kiss, kiss, kiss.
Kiss, kiss, kiss.
There is no love.
There is no love.
Hug.
Hug.
So that's how easy it is to do it. And that's the main way that we perform poems with people. And I work with everything from everyone from preschoolers who are 3 and 4 years old, who are first just learning language. And then, oh, Juliana disappeared. We might have to come her back. Sorry about that. It's nice to see another face. I might ask Steve. I don't know if Steve's probably having breakfast. Anyway, yay,
I
Steve.
think we can bring participants, right, Steve?
Oh, there we go. That's very good. Yeah, we'll see if we can bring in some participants. So I work with everyone from little tiny kids, 3 years old, first learning language, on up to medical students, and of course, elders of all ages. You guys, you keep disappearing. So that's our main way. That's our number one technique of having performing poems. And I want to tell just a little story about that particular dicho. Well, first, how I started working with dichos. I was doing a conference in New Mexico, and it was Alzheimer's Association conference. And this woman and a mother and daughter came up after the conference, and they said to me, my dad, or my husband, has started to say these dichos. And so I was just fascinated. I really didn't know about them. So I started to learn about them, and we ended up publishing a book that has dichos in it. So the idea is, on one side, we're using classic poems that people might have learned as kids. So the example of the guy saying, you know, I shot an arrow into the air and it fell to earth, I know not where. That was a great example. But here's the thing, here's the caution. Most people don't have poetry memorized. And so our goal is really not to, it's exciting when it happens. Like if I say, quote the Raven, and someone says nevermore, it's exciting. But most times we're not doing that. So we're really just sharing the performance of poetry and the exuberance that you can have. And you can see right away I was able to bring in humor and touch, and so that can be very powerful in working with anyone really, but certainly with elders and with people living with dementia. So I'm wondering, I don't know, this is, it feels so great when we interact with somebody. Steve, can I call on somebody from the participants? How can I ask a participant to volunteer to do a little call and response with me? How does that work?
Absolutely. We did that yesterday, and let me lower everybody's hands. And so if you'd like to volunteer to come on stage with Gary, raise your virtual hand and I will. Okay, so we definitely have one. Could you use more than one?
One is good. We'll start with one.
Okay, so it looks like we got Richard. Richard won that one. So Richard, if you, I'm promoting you to panelist, and just turn on your mic and camera.
Oh, great. That's great.
And then also,
thank you.
You can,
go ahead, Steve.
You can also tell me when you want me to put the slide deck back on. Okay.
Absolutely.
Right.
So, hey, Richard, thanks for agreeing to do this. So tell me a little bit about yourself. Do you like poetry?
Well, I was an English lit major, so I love poetry.
Oh, that's fantastic. Many people don't like it. Many people have the experience of like in my case, being in Mrs. Woodward's class and having to stand up and recite a poem in front of the group and being just terrified. But somehow I got over it and I really did like it. How about you? Do you have a favorite poet or poem that you like?
I guess I like Robert Frost and I like Edgar Allan Poe and I like some modern poetry. I like Mary Oliver. Um,
Mary
I-
Oliver's great, isn't she?
yeah, she's wonderful.
Do you know her poem Wild Geese?
Yeah, I do. I could recite it, but I know
Oh,
basically.
can you recite it
No,
just
no,
by memory?
no, I can't. I
Oh,
can't.
okay. That's okay. We'll do a little bit of Poe if that's all right.
Okay, that sounds good.
All right, so Edgar Allan Poe. Oh, so first of all, this is a timeout. This is outside of the conference, but maybe interesting for people. And Richard, you probably know this already. Poe is buried in Baltimore.
Yeah.
And
Sure.
every year for decades, they called it the Poe toaster would come, and this mysterious stranger would come and drink cognac and leave a rose on Poe's grave. And then about 10 years ago or so, he stopped coming, so they think he passed away. They think it was a couple people because it started in the 20s and went up until just about 10 years ago. Did you know about that story?
Oh yeah, yeah. I visited Poe's home. There's a home in Baltimore that's a museum.
Yeah, it's
And
it's a small house. It's interesting though.
yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, very small house. But
All right, so time in. We're going to go back to doing the call and response. So again, this is just an example for people of how to perform poems with people. So Richard, if you will, I will say a line of the poetry and then you'll repeat after me. And we're going to do a poem about a bird. Can you guess what Poe poem it might be?
Nevermore.
Yes, that's right. You hit it. Nevermore, the Raven, of course. Now, one thing that you can do, and this is sort of being playful with it, but you can use different emotions when you're reciting the poems. It can be very, very fun to do this. So, Richard, I'm going to imagine that you have a dial, and I'm going to turn up your spooky setting, and I'm going to try to make my voice as spooky as possible, and you can also do that. So here we go.
Okay.
Once upon a midnight dreary.
Once upon a midnight dreary.
Oh my God, your voice is amazing. While I pondered weak and weary.
While I pondered weak and weary.
While I nodded.
While I nodded.
Nearly napping.
Nearly napping.
Suddenly,
There
came a tapping.
there came a tapping. Tock, tock, tock.
As of someone gently rapping.
As of someone gently rapping.
Rapping at my chamber door.
Rapping at my chamber door.
Ooh, quoth the raven.
Ooh, quoth the raven.
Nevermore.
Nevermore.
Now, one of the things you can do is you can put rhythms to it. And if Richard and I were in the same room, I would see if he would do do-si-do with me and we could square dance a little bit. But because we're not, we'll do it. But I'm gonna play a little riff on my harmonica and then we'll do the poem just one more time. So here we go. Once upon a midnight dreary.
Once upon a midnight dreary.
While I pondered weak and weary.
While I pondered weak and weary.
While I nodded nearly napping.
While I nodded nearly napping.
Suddenly there came a tapping.
Suddenly there came a tapping.
As of someone gently rapping.
As of someone gently rapping.
Rapping at my chamber door.
Rapping at my chamber door.
Quoth the raven.
Quoth the raven.
Nevermore.
Nevermore.
Quoth the raven.
Quoth the raven.
Nevermore.
Nevermore.
Let's give Richard a round of applause. Richard, you have a great voice. Have you done acting?
No, but I sing in the choir, so I'm okay.
Oh, oh, wow. Okay. Are you a bass?
Yeah, I'm a bass. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you have such a great voice. That's really cool. So thank you so much for doing that with me. And
It was
again,
fun.
these are, the way we perform is use call and response. And you can be playful, you can use humor, you can add music to it, all different kinds of ways. We'll talk more about how to do this maybe in one-on-one settings. I'm getting a feeling from the questions from the last speaker, which was fantastic. I got to listen to part of that, that people have, maybe a lot of people are individual caregivers. So we'll address that as we go. So Steve, let's go back to the slides if we could. And what we're going to do now is just watch a little bit of a video that's me doing programming in a poetry robot. And we developed this program in large part because of COVID, so that we could do programming with care homes during COVID. And this is about a 3-minute video. You're going to see me doing a call and response with some of the residents at a care home in Wisconsin. And you'll get a little bit of view of the robot. Yes, thank you, Steve. Of course, the cat doesn't care that the robot goes by. Hi, I'm Gary Glazner, founder and executive director of the Alzheimer's. Oops. So that's one thing about these. I'm excited to tell you to use telepresence robots to help reduce social isolation in long-term care communities. We also offer training for staff and families in using creativity as a communication tool to help improve the quality of life for people living in long-term care communities. Here are some examples of our work. All right, Marlene, so I will say a line of the poetry and you repeat after me, and that way we can perform together, okay?
Okay.
I carry your heart.
I carry your heart.
I carry it in my heart.
I carry it in my heart.
I'm never without it.
I'm never without it.
Anywhere I go, you go.
Anywhere I go, you go.
I carry your heart.
I carry your heart.
I carry it in my heart.
Carry it in my heart.
I'm never without it.
I'm never without it.
Wherever I go, you go.
Wherever I go, you go.
All right, give Lillian a round of applause. That was really beautiful.
Wonderful.
I carry your heart.
I carry your heart.
I carry it in my heart.
I carry it in my heart.
I'm never without it.
I'm never without it.
Anywhere I go, you go.
Anywhere I go, you go.
All right, time out, time out. I want to teach you a joke. One group that I work with in Brooklyn, where I'm at, they made a joke out of that line, and they say, anywhere I go, you go, Hugo. All right. Time in. Here we go. Anywhere I go, you go, Hugo.
Anywhere I go, you go. You go. You go.
All right, here we go. Here we go. Big finish. Lots of hand gestures. Here we go. I carry your heart.
Carry your heart.
I carry it in my heart.
Carry it in my heart.
Bump, ba-da-dum, bump.
Bum, bum, bum,
Bump, bump.
bum, bum.
Marlene, a round of applause. That was beautiful. Thank you, Marlene.
You're welcome.
All right. So, Steve, let's see if we can get someone else to volunteer. This one, we're going to go to the second technique, which is to have discussions around the poems. And it would be great if I can interact with somebody. That would be a lot of fun.
Okay, so if you want to raise your hand and we'll bring you to stage. If we have a volunteer, you raise your little virtual hand there. I think, was it Richard was our last?
Yes, yes.
Well, I think he did such a wonderful job. Maybe people are so nervous. So we've
Now
got
nobody's going to volunteer.
Diane. So Diane raised her hand.
Oh, great, great.
So Diane, if you, when you come to stage, if you can turn on your mic and camera. There is Diane.
Hi, Diane. How are you? How are you today?
I'm so happy to be here.
Oh, fantastic. Well, it's great to see you. I love those red glasses you have.
Thanks, so do I.
Yeah. So this second technique is to have discussions around the poems, and this is just really talking about it. And what I find in when we're doing training for healthcare workers is some people really excel on this, and we see a lot of engagement that goes up when you're talking with the group and asking them questions and discussing the poems. It's a really interesting thing. So we'll take our last poem, which was "I Carry Your Heart" by E.E. Cummings, and I could ask, well, let me ask you, what's a question you could ask about that poem that would engage someone in discussion? What could you ask them?
Why is it significant to carry someone's heart?
Yeah, that's a great question, right? So you could start with that. I was working with a group on the Navajo Nation in New Mexico a few years ago, and we were doing that poem. And people started to, we started talking about different things or people that you could carry in your heart. And one woman raised her hand and said, I carry animals in my heart. And she had mentioned her sheep. She had a flock of sheep. And another guy raised his hand and he said, if you really carried your sheep in your heart, you would be home with them right now. So it was pretty funny. So yeah, so then we could talk about that. I could ask you, for example, who do you carry in your heart, or something or person? Do you want to share that with us?
Well, I carry my wife in my heart. I'm her care partner.
Your wife, and you're her care partner.
Yeah.
Oh, so that's beautiful. So that's really beautiful. In our poem, we're just talking, so anything can happen really, and you can say something to her in this setting if you feel comfortable to. So what would you like to say to her?
You're good. You're lovable. We're together.
Yeah. So that's beautiful, right? And it's really just simple. It's so basic human behavior to have discussions and to talk together. And the only thing in this time we're saying is it's a skill, and we can get better at it if we think of it. And so one of the things is we can do what's a deep listening or active listening, and you can pay attention to the person's body language and that kind of thing. I think that is some of the questions that were coming out of the last speaker's talk. I think were a lot around communication, and they were talking about redirecting and that kind of thing, and taking a thread of the conversation, and maybe the example she gave was when the mom was talking about the old high school boyfriend. So and there's nothing other than I'm saying is just that we can get better at it if we think about it. And that, of course, will then help our relationships with everyone, but certainly with our care partners. Let's see. Let me find out a little about you, Diane. Where are you located? Are you
Falls Church, Virginia. We live in a continuing care community here.
in Falls Church?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if I've been to Falls Church. I used to do a lot of work in DC, and of course there's parts of Virginia that are just right over.
Yeah, we're just a few miles outside of DC. Used to live in Arlington until we moved here a year ago. This is
okay.
Goodwin House, Bailey's Crossroads.
Oh, okay. So that was one of the sponsors, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think they said that they have been a sponsor for years, they said.
A long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was the gentleman who just kind of came on and was speaking from his heart, which works great with our talk here. Oh,
It's
that's
wonderful.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you so much for volunteering. And do you have any questions about just using the poems for to spark discussions?
I think it sounds like a great way. Look, Amber is saying
Yeah.
one of the original
Original
sponsors
sponsors.
36 years ago.
Yeah. That's incredible.
I think sometimes the challenge is to find the right poet. Some do not lend themselves.
No. Okay. So this is a good point. This is still under discussion, but most of the times I'm using poems, I'm editing them pretty heavily, and it really helps you to see, like you have, like Richard mentioned, liking Robert Frost, and so like, what are the Robert Frost poems that really have? I mean, he has lots of great poems, but which are the ones that are really stick with you, or that call out? And then, like, do you want to do the whole poem, or is it just a few lines? So normally I'm doing usually just a few lines. You'll notice in the Raven, I only did the opening stanza, and I actually moved up the quote, the nevermore. I moved that up in the poem. The whole thing's about 8 minutes long. So yeah, that's a good point. Now, I really enjoy searching out poems and finding poems that work with people, but also I have lists of them, and you can write me. Poetry operators are standing by, and I can share lists of poems with you so that you can use those. It is fun to go on a site like Poetry Foundation, which has hundreds of poems listed, thousands probably, and it's fun for me to read through them. Maybe is not everybody's cup of tea, but
I get a poem a day on my email, and some of them I just can't imagine doing anything but read once and close.
yeah, it's an interesting thing, right? Because it's like it's poem a day, and some are great, but there's also I think poem a day is one that I know of that okay, here's the thing. Let's do this. Let's do this as a special for Diane and for Goodwin House. Let's just offer this. I mean, they've been a sponsor for 36 years. If anybody would like to have a poem text to them on a daily basis for the next 20 days, 4 weeks, I have short poems, 2 to 4 lines. And I have a question with it. So like we're talking about, you might ask, my love is like a red, red rose. And do you have a favorite rose or something like that? So I'm going to put, I better, Diane, I'm going way overboard here. I got to get Steve and Juliana's permission, but can I offer that, Steve? Is that valid? Am I going crazy here?
Well,
are we doing a
opinion,
clearance sale that's not approved?
Yeah, as long as somebody isn't paying for it, but the fact that you've already offered it, I think it would be worse if we took back the offer. So
I know, it's like even worse. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put can I put my phone number in the text? I mean, in the chat, and then anybody who wants it, or how do you want to do it?
I would do it with your email. And
okay, we'll start with email.
Yeah.
And then if you're interested in getting the daily, this is a special for Diane and Goodwin House. It's the Diane, we're going to call it the Diane special. Is that okay, Diane?
that's very generous, and I think it will help.
I think she's frozen. She's either frozen or she's just not.
She's in shock. She can't believe
She's in shock. Oh, man, if I could type, let's see.
Here,
yeah, there we go. So I'm going to put my email in there.
There you go. Okay.
And you can contact me about any of this stuff, but certainly if you want to get a daily poem, We use it in the training.
Excellent.
Okay, cool. I just want to, before we go on to the next slide, let me look at just a couple of things. Sam put in a poem after his diagnosis, which is a really beautiful poem. So Sam, thank you
Well,
for.
and actually, Gary, if you want, you've got a few questions that have come in. So we'll just,
We can do questions as we go instead of saving them for the end.
Exactly.
It's
So-
more interesting if it's interactive. But let's just compliment Sam. Sam, that's a beautiful poem, and thank you for sharing it. People can see it in the chat if they want to read it. That's lovely. And a couple people talking about knowing Poe's in Baltimore. And a friend of hers got married at the Poe house. I don't know how, if that, they must really like Poe.
Okay, and then and Chandra, on your generous offer to send a poem and question.
Yeah, no pay. It's free of charge.
Now, out of curiosity, is that a service that you do offer for somebody that wanted to do that longer term?
Yeah. It's just coming to me now that maybe this is a cool thing to do. I use it when I'm training people. So with the robot project, we go into care homes and we train the staff in kind of just what I'm talking about today. And they use it and we interact with the robot and they get the daily poems each day. But now I'm thinking, wow, wouldn't it be cool if caregivers also
I think
wanted
it's
to
a
do
wonderful
that?
service. I think that's very generous to prompt that this is something that you're offering to this group, and it could be a longer term project. On the topic of the care robot, Mona asks, hi Gary, how can we use what you are doing and bring it to a care community? You have a robot, but how would people broadly incorporate this activity into the communities? Would you do this as a Zoom call?
We have been doing it as Zoom calls in COVID times, but typically what happens is the staff who are normally under activities, that's the title, or sometimes people have different titles depending on the organization. But I would train those people to do this program, and then they would lead the poetry sessions with the residents.
Okay.
That's normally how it happens. And you can do it by Zoom, although it is, as you can see, like you can imagine being in the room right now. If we were all in the room together, the energy would be a different level than the Zoom. Although the Zoom seems to be working pretty good, Steve.
Yeah, no, that's great. Now, somebody, Sheila, found your book, Dementia Arts, on Amazon for $48, and she was wondering, is there a place where she might go to get it at a lower price?
That's pretty much the price, and I'll tell you why. It's got color photos. No, when it's Health Professionals Press is the publisher, and when I submitted the manuscript, when we're doing the publishing, they said these photos are so great, and they're a lot from Michael Hagedorn, who's an amazing photographer out of Germany. They said we're going to make the book color, because the photos are the best photos we've ever got of dementia work. So it was really exciting to get that, but it did make the thing go up in price if everything's in color. Okay. That's just another mention of the book. All of these lessons and techniques I'm talking about are in the book as recipes. So I like the metaphor of it being a recipe. Oh, there's Diane came back.
Yeah, sorry, Diane. It looks like you froze up when Gary threw the offer out there. But now
I was afraid you were just mad at me.
Now
I know. No, everything here is very good except the internet.
Yeah, it's
still unstable.
Tricky. Yeah.
And let's see, we got a couple more, and then we'll get you back on track, Gary. Rachio says, what is the name of your book that contains the dichos? And I know
dichos, it's pronounced.
Dichos, yes.
Yeah, that one is Nurture Me Now.
Nurture Me Now, okay.
Or Nutre Me in Spanish. And what I'll do before we get off, I'll see if I can put the information in the chat, but also people, my email's in there now. So if you're interested in that one, email me. And that one, Steve, again, I don't know, I didn't clear this, but that one I can give a 36th annual caregiver conference discount. I'll
Okay.
give you a good price on that one.
Okay.
We'll play make an offer. I've got a few of those left over. So the other one that was published on Poem Factory, which is my business.
Oh, and actually, this is at your website, and I see it here, the Spanish Anthology. I will drop that into chat.
Fantastic. You are on top of it, man.
Yeah. Okay. And then
Let's see. We got somebody.
the last question before we get you back on track. It says Michelle Lane is referencing the road not taken. I think that's when you asked what our favorite poems were and what.
Yeah, The Road Not Taken by Frost, of course, is a huge one, and one that we use a lot. Someone's complimenting Sam for sharing his poem, that he's very brave for sharing it, and his courage is inspiring. So again, Sam, thanks for sharing that poem.
All right. Well, you want to get back to number 3, which is the app technique?
Yes, let's go back to number 3, which app is the acronym for Alzheimer's Poetry Project. I named the company, the project way before apps were a thing. So this one's props. And this is the idea that you take something that the person can hold, smell, touch, maybe even taste, and that you can enhance the theme of the program. So let's one more time. It's so fun to do this. Steve, let's bring back the raising of the hand if people want to volunteer. And my prop today is a cup of coffee, of iced coffee. Who would like to interact with me around the idea of props or things that person can take? Beautiful. So we'll see if someone goes through the raising of their hand process with Steve.
Oh, sorry. I thought my mic was on. So Martha, if you want to turn your, I believe I promoted you there.
Oh, hi, Martha.
Hi,
How are you today?
I'm well, thank you.
Thank you for volunteering. And our subject is props that usually we'll build the program around a theme. So for example, tree poems. I think that I shall never see a poem as lovely as a tree. And then we bring in bark and leaves and anything that can stimulate the senses. So another theme we do a lot is flowers. And it's very powerful to bring in rose petals, and you can touch the person's cheek with the rose petals and smell them and touch their hand and things. So Martha, can you think of a theme and a prop or group of props that would support the theme? Now, this is a lot to do just
Okay,
on the fly.
The theme is water.
Okay, theme is water. Great theme.
And
what are you going to bring in?
bring it in a cup or a bucket
Yeah, you could bring in a
or
cup
a
of
spray
water,
bottle.
a spray bottle. There was a group in Wisconsin that did exactly that. It was a really warm day, and they brought in a fresh lemonade and strawberries, and then they had a spray bottle. And I wouldn't do it on a cold day, but on a warm day, they misted the people's cheeks, and it was delightful. It was a great thing. So water's a good one. I'll give you another example along those same lines. When I first started doing this work in New Mexico, so I first was in Northern California and then moved to Santa Fe, and I was going to go work at Sierra Vista, an assisted living center. And I didn't know what prop to bring. And I was looking around the house and I was like, oh my God, yes, Diane, ice cubes. We're going to get to ice cubes. That's pretty much what I thought. I looked outside. I thought, I'm going to bring snow. I filled an ice chest full of snow, and I brought them in, and I got them. I started making snowballs and passing them out to the residents. And some were, oh, they didn't want to touch it. It was too cold. Other people started eating the snow. And then Ruth Dennis, the activities director, said, throw them at Gary. And so there I was, splat, whack. And it hit me. how powerful these poems could be. Let's do one more, Martha. Your water one is delightful, and I don't know that I've ever had anybody suggest that. I really like that one. Anything else? Let's do one more if you don't mind.
Games.
Okay, so the theme is games, and what's a thing that you could prop that would support games? This is really fun.
A ball.
Yeah,
And dice and
dice.
cards.
Yeah,
Decks
all
of
those.
cards.
And all of those are around activities that care homes often do, or that we do in the evening if we're just hanging out. And so those can be really stimulating. And then maybe you get a poem or something that goes with the game. Maybe you recite a little bit of Casey at the bat, and you've got a ball you can toss around. And it's just, we're trying to step outside of our role as caregivers and find these moments where we can interact, and it doesn't take away the hard work. It doesn't take away, we talked about showering and keeping people clean and changing their clothes. All that's still there, but imagine just a few minutes, maybe it's 10 minutes, maybe it's 15, maybe 5, and the day, and you step outside of that role and you interact. And so many times I've had people say, that was my husband again. He was there laughing and joking. And it just can be beautiful. So Martha, thank you very much. Where are you in? Are you in Virginia? Is everybody in Virginia except for me?
I'm in Virginia. Right, in Falls Church also, but not
Not at Goodwin House, but also
Right.
Falls Church. Well, I'm curious. Are you on the Metro line? Are you on the Red Line?
Orange and silver lines.
Orange and silver. I did a lot of work a couple years ago down in DC, and really loved it. And we were right on the line with Silver Springs, and so it was really great to get to do that work up there. It's beautiful country. All right, thank you, Martha.
You're welcome.
So let's see how we're doing. We're at 11:04. That's not bad. Steve, let's see what's on the agenda for the thing. I think we have creating a group poem. Maybe we'll come back to that. Let's go up to the slideshow again, Steve, and we'll show just a couple slides.
Okay.
I'll talk a little bit about them, and then we'll come back and we'll create a poem together with the group.
Okay, bear with me here because I got
No problem.
slideshow. And for those that don't realize it, and Gary, while I'm doing this, the Silver Line to Dulles Airport is going to open in 5 days.
Wow.
Yeah.
I've already got 2 people who've subscribed. 2 people have subscribed to the poem a day, and 1 person who bought the book. This is a bang up conference, man. Okay, so we're going to come back to this one, but let's go ahead, and I'll just briefly touch on these because we are getting. We have a little time left, but so one of the things that we do in the care homes and projects is to add dancing and movement. And this was a real highlight for me. This was a project we were doing in Santa Fe, New Mexico, which is famous for the Santa Fe Opera. And we worked with them, and they gave us all these props, and we created an opera, which we're going to talk about how to create a poem, and we'll show how we created the opera. But I just want to point out that the guy in black with his leg up is Sky. Let's go back to that just a second. That's Sky, and he was a really amazing guy, and he was the star of the opera. And we'll advance to the next one. This was at Brooklyn Museum. We often work in museum settings with different cultural groups like the opera or museums. And this is Jesse Newman playing trumpet, and we had the participants were dancing with a dance troupe. All right, so that's just a couple things. And then the intergenerational work I touched on before. This was at Sunny Side Up, they call it, and The preschool was on the second floor and the adult day program's on the ground floor, so it was easy to bring them. And I would teach the kids a poem or two, and then we'd go down and work with the elders. And you can see everybody's sort of having a great time. The funniest part about it was the kids had this song that they would sing as they walked through the halls, going from the second floor down to the ground floor, and it was something like. We're walking through the halls. We're being very quiet. Shh, shh, shh. Which of course got everybody in the place, got them out of their offices and singing along with the kids as they would march through the halls. All right, let's go back to that slide just briefly for create a group poem, story, or song. Now, what we're going to do is we're actually going to do this. And again, we're going to go, Steve, if you could do the hand raising thing for somebody. And maybe this time we'll ask for, let's see if we'll go for broke, if we can get 3 people to agree to volunteer to help us create our poem.
All right, so 3 people here. And if you raise your virtual hand, and we'll bring you on stage to create a poem with Gary. And okay, we got Alan. We need 2 more. Alan, I'm promoting you to panelist. We could get a couple more.
So you've got Alan.
Sam. Oh, Sam's been getting a ton of compliments
Yep.
On his poem that he shared. And if we could get one more, and Alan and Sam, when you get on stage, just turn your mic and camera on there. Perfect.
Hey, Sam.
And one more, but if we don't get
Hey,
one
Alan.
more, we'll work with these 2, right?
Aaron, I keep looking around for Alan.
Oh, great. So Alan's got a friend with him.
Okay. Well, it looks like you got
Or,
Alan.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there we go.
Okay, great.
Okay, that's 3 people.
Yep.
All right. So our first thing that we have to do, let's just take a moment to notice. Sam, what are those books behind you?
Well, I'm
Now,
not.
late in life, I became a playwright around my caregiving for my wife, Susan, who had advanced breast cancer. She survived, so it has a happy ending. And
That's
so
great.
it was initially a play, and now it's a memoir called The Actual Dance.
The Actual Dance.
It's a metaphor for the ritual of being with the person you love most in the world as they may take their last breath.
Wow, God, that's powerful. I love the title too, The Actual Dance.
And I put it in chat, the link for everybody in chat to check that out. So
Thank you.
that's great.
Well, there is a famous line about that you can't tell the dancer from the dance. What do you think, Alan? Are you up for creating a poem about dance? Should we?
Not much of a dancer, but sure.
Okay. So, and what's your partner's name that's what's with you?
That's Brenda. She's registered for the conference also.
Okay, Brenda. Hi, Brenda. We just want to say hi to Brenda.
Hello.
How you doing today?
Very well, thanks.
So can we start with you? Can I ask you a question, please?
Sure.
All right. So Alan said he's not much of a dancer. How about you? When you hear the word dance, what comes to mind for you? What do you think of?
Jitterbug.
Jitterbug. Oh my gosh. We should stop right now. I love it. Jitterbug. Oh, that's beautiful. All right, we're going to come back to you, Brenda, but let's get Sam's take. Same question, Sam. When you hear the word dance, what do you think of?
Waltz.
A waltz. All right. All right. We got jitterbug and waltz. Man, this is going to be great. Okay, now, so just as sort of like the technique, I'm asking open-ended questions. I'm writing down the answers that people are saying. And depending on the size of the group, or maybe you're just working one-on-one, you can decide, do you keep asking, what do you think of when you hear the word dance, or do you shift? And one of the things we do a lot is we explore the theme through our senses. And this can get very creative and maybe a little bit crazy, because you imagine Let's go back to Sam. Sam, what does a waltz smell like? Or what's the fragrance of a waltz?
Roses.
Baked goods, the bakery smell of fresh bread.
Bakery, fresh bread. Oh, I love it. All right. And Brenda, same question for you. And you got to imagine the jitterbug, and it's a little creative way to think, but we're going to do a fill in the blank. We're going to say jitterbug smells like, and then you got to compare the jitterbug to something.
Coffee.
Smells like coffee. I love it. Oh, that's great. Oh,
Yes.
and you really do think of, like, you think when you see the people jitterbugging, you would think they probably had a lot of coffee today. Okay, and again, you know, we're just doing this as an example so people can kind of get a sense of it. In a typical care home or working one-on-one, I might ask another dozen questions. It just depends on what you want to do. But we'll do a couple more. So we're doing our senses, and so far we've done fragrance or smell. But what about taste? And let's ask Alan this one if Alan wants to answer. Alan, what does dance taste like?
Well, that's a little difficult.
It is difficult. It's very unusual to even think of it this way.
Lemon drops.
Oh, Brenda for the win. Tastes like lemon drops.
Yeah, because it's sweet and tangy at the same time. It's a little risky. because you-
Sweet,
Yeah, I like that.
tangy, and risky. That is my favorite kind of dance. I love it. And Sam, what's the feel of the dance? What do you, when you're dancing, and what are you feeling? What's it feel like?
Love.
It feels like love. Beautiful. And then again, you know, this is just an example so people get the idea of the technique, but normally as I get towards the end, I would kind of flip it and I would say something like, what does dance teach us? What do we learn from dance, Sam?
Tempo and timing.
Tempo and timing, which are so powerful to learn those. And Brenda, can I ask you another question, please? So
Sure.
we're gonna, in our poem, we're using our creativity. It's magic. Anything can happen. You can speak to dance. You can talk to dance. What would you say to dance?
What would I say today?
Yeah. You can say anything.
It's a tough one.
That's a tough one. Hurry up.
Hurry up. Beautiful. I love it. So now we've got our poem, and then what we would do then is we would use our call and response to perform the poem together. And so let's keep Sam and Alan and Brenda on. And if you guys are willing to perform the poem with me, would you like to do that?
Sure.
Try if we can remember the responses.
Well, the good part about it is I'm going to say it and you repeat after me, so you don't have to remember it at all. All you have to do is say back the words, which is called a particular kind of memory called archaic memory. That you're just, it's the kind of memory that we would hold in our mind long enough, like a phone number, right? Where you could say, oh, his number's, 505, and you hold it long enough. And that's this type of memory. So it's not long-term memory. We're not asking you to, do you remember the time we went to the lake? We're just saying, say these words back to us. So that's one of the reasons why it's so powerful. All right, so here we go. Let's start with Sam. And I'm going to do a little call and response to him, and then I'll switch with Alan and Brenda. And that's just because we'll get chaotic if there's more than one voice on Zoom saying it. All right, so here we go. Ready, Sam? Ladies and gentlemen,
Ladies and gentlemen,
Welcome
welcome
to the first ever
to the first ever
world premiere
world premiere
poetry recitation.
poetry presentation
And if you can't trill your R, if you can't go, you can go of the original poem
of the original poem
entitled
entitled
The Dance,
The Dance,
created by
the
the 36th annual
36th annual
Caregiver Conference
Caregiver Conference,
Precision Poetry Drill Team.
Precision Poetry Drill Team.
When I hear the word dance,
When I hear the word dance,
I think I'm not much of a dancer.
I think I'm not much of a dancer.
I think jitterbug.
I think jitterbug.
I think waltz.
I think waltz.
And now we're going to switch to Alan and Brenda. You ready? I'll say it, you say it. Here we go. Waltz
Wall
smells like the bakery,
smells like the bakery,
like fresh bread.
like fresh bread.
Jitterbug.
Jitterbug,
I say jitterbug.
jitterbug,
Smells like coffee.
smells like coffee.
Dance.
Dance,
Tastes like lemon drops.
tastes like lemon drops.
Sweet.
Sweet,
Tangy.
tangy,
Risky.
risky.
All right, we'll shift back to Sam. Dance.
Dance
Feels like love.
feels like love.
Teaches us tempo and timing.
Teaches us tempo and timing.
And we say to dance,
And we say to dance,
hurry up.
hurry up.
Bring us to this moment
Bring us to this moment
as we
now.
dance
As we dance
with our new friends.
with our new friends.
Ta-da!
Ta-da!
Give yourselves a round of applause. Oh my gosh. That was so fantastic. We are at the end of our time together. We have the next thing coming up. Steve, what's the housekeeping look like?
Well, this has been absolutely wonderful, and I'm going to welcome Juliana there, our host, to the stage to wrap things up here. But Sam and Alan and all of our participants that jumped up on stage, thank you so much for your participation.
Yeah, thanks. And Brenda and Alan and Sam, that was a great poem. Thanks so much. Juliana, I have one last little thing to do, and then I'll give it back to you. So here we go. It's only a paper moon sailing over a cardboard sea, but it wouldn't be make-believe if the 36th Annual Caregivers Conference believed in me.
Oh, man.
Thanks, everybody.
Oh, that's great.
Thank you so much, Gary. That was excellent. What a fun, engaging, and creative presentation. And really, thank you so much to both of our presenters. Pam, your presentation was amazing as well. Thank you to everyone who has been here with us, and to all the people who volunteered to be on screen and be a part of this experience. What a treat. So now I would like to remind everyone to please visit our virtual exhibit hall to explore some of our local resources in Northern Virginia. We are going to put the link in the chat box so you can do that. Also, it's time to spin for door prizes. Today we'll be giving away 4 books as we have done in the past 2 days. And I would like to welcome my consortium colleague, Will Jin from Elderlink. Welcome, Will, how are you?
Good. Thank you everybody for attending our conference this year. For our first spin, we're going to be giving away a copy of the 36-Hour Day written by Dr. Peter Ravens. We're going to get our wheel of consortium up here. And our first winner is Sean Taylor. Congrats, Sean, you get the copy of the 36-Hour Day. For our next spin, it's going to be a copy of Communicating with Your Loved One with Dementia by Pam Ostrowski. Spoke earlier today. And lucky winner for that book is Christopher Moore. Congratulations. The next spin will be for a copy of Dementia Arts, Celebrating Creativity and Elder Care, written by Gary Glazner. And our lucky winner is Robin McLaughlin. And finally, a copy of Create While You Wait, adult coloring book with coloring pencils. Our lucky winner is Daniel Crane, our consortium member.
Thank you so much, Will. Thank you. And thank you to Steve as well. And congratulations to all of our lucky winners. These books are going to be mailed to the address that you provided. And if you didn't, don't worry, we are going to follow up with you next week via email. Now, one more time, I want to take this opportunity to remind you to visit our virtual exhibit hall. We are going to have, we're going to drop the link in the chat box. Could you, Steve, go to the next slide? Okay, so as mentioned during the past 2 days, we have a conference evaluation, and we would love for you to take a few minutes and complete that evaluation. We are putting a link in the chat box to a SurveyMonkey evaluation for the entire conference. Please share your feedback. We really want to hear what you thought of our conference, and we want to know what your experience was. In addition, for all professionals who have attended and wish to apply to George Mason University for continuing education units, you must have attended all conference sessions. The link to access the CEUs will be dropped in the chat box, and the cost is going to be $50 payable to George Mason University. Now, if you do not need an official CEU, but do want a general certificate of attendance for this conference, we are going to be including a PDF of a certificate in our post-conference evaluation or email. Next slide, Steve. So as we wrap up this year's conference, I want to recognize the time and effort that it took for all of you to be here. Learning takes time and commitment, and adapting to your role and to your loved ones' needs isn't always easy. And thriving might seem very challenging and at times impossible, but you're here, and we are grateful and confident that you are leaving the conference with enlightening information, creative approaches to connect with your loved ones, and helpful resources to help you on your journey. So we hope that this carries you through the holiday season with hope and positivity. Thanks to everyone for joining our 36th annual Northern Virginia Dementia Care Consortium Conference, Caregivers Conference, and we hope that you will join us next year for our 37th. Until then, be well, everyone.